Okay, so here's a quick and dirty on the WriteGeoNode. I'm going to go ahead and take this WriteGeoNode and we're just going to create it and send out some geometry. So I'll delete that, and I have the two viewers here so that I can see my 2D camera and my 3D version of this. Okay, so real quick, this is the scene that is set up. It's above ground now, so I basically flattened out my tabletop because that's what these points are making, and I moved the camera node, or camera itself, under the scene setting, or sorry, the scene tab right here. Like my rotate Y, translates and all that good stuff. If the camera seems a bit off or the table seems a bit off, we can still take that rotate node, and I'll use my arrow keys to tap up or down in front of the value that I want to change. Okay, if it's a larger scale value, I'll just go in front of the 1 here, and I'll do it in a larger increment, or the 5 right in front of the 5. Okay, so right here I can get it down to, you know, maybe something a little more flat, or that looks a little flat, and running this way in the z-axis. That's going to be a little bit more easily manageable inside of Maya. So what I'll do is I'll take the scene here, and I need to export this out. So if I was to check this out inside of Nuke and I wanted to kind of recreate the scene, and right now I have nothing, just to show you real quick, I could bring in the geometry of a cube or a card or something like that, and then I would be able to place it and scale it and all that good stuff. Let's kind of uniform scale this thing down. Bring it down. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Come on. Gotta say, it's not as precise when it comes to selecting these handles. There we are. So you'll see inside of my scene, I am not seeing anything because right now the cube is not really connected to anything. I do need to connect it to my scene for us to be able to view this. And right now, it's not taking the 3D and bringing it in to the 2D area, so I need to actually have the other node in there, and that node would be, if I click on my scene, I need to convert all the 3D stuff back into 2D inside of Nuke, the scanline render node. So I'll add that, and that will allow me to see my scene, basically recreate it. Now it's going to take the information based off of the scene itself, this camera, which I'll connect to the 3D camera inside of Nuke. That's going to be this camera over here, and this background node, the BG node, to the sequence that we have. Okay, and then that's going to generally be what I can use to see my scene. Now this has no texture, so I could take the cube and add a checkerboard to it to texture it, and now I can see it inside of my scene. So right inside of here, I'm able to see that. I can put this back into my 3D view. I could hit the tab key, right? And this one I could actually take and make it a different viewer, like viewer 2 again, or something like that. But I'm not really too worried about that. So if I wanted to, I could connect this to the scanline render node and see everything. So my viewer 1 is showing that, my viewer 2 is showing my 3D scene. That way I could take this cube and, or whatever, double click it and scale it again and place it. So I can place it in here on the table, and this would be as if I was trying to, you know, get it ready for export to Maya, because it will go into Maya, Cinema 4D, 3ds Max, you know, whatever you're using for the most part. And I'll put it on the scene here to kind of see if it's going to help me to better get an idea of this is obnoxious. There we go. Just need that handle right there. There we go. And that's good placement. So you see if I do the playback here, that it's going to move along with the scene. And that's really what we're getting into for Maya. Okay. I'm going to stop the playback because we've already done this in class, and I'm going to take that scanline render node, and I could leave that there. I really could. I could deactivate it, or I could just run another node off of the scene node. To avoid any confusion, what I'll do is I'll just get rid of the scanline render node, and again, I could leave it there and connect the next node to the scene node and send it out. I do not need the scanline render node to send out the scene to Maya with the WriteGeoNode. So I could pull this to the side, or I could just delete it, and I'll delete it just for, you know, teaching purposes. I'll select the scene node. I'll go up to my 3D tools, and I'll go down to geometry, and I'm going to say that I want to write out the geometry. That's going to be the locators and all that good stuff. So I'll connect the viewer 2 to that. And that WriteGeoNode has to have some specifics in here, so I'll click the folder here. And I will tell it to go to the student projects. I'm going to call it NukeXToMayaFBX 3D. I don't know, something that makes sense. And I'll put .fbx so I could be specific with it, because we know that Nuke likes the specifics, right, for the file type. And I'll hit open. And that's going to say the type of file, and it recognizes it down here that it is a .fbx. And it's going to take out the geometry, cameras, lights, axes, point cloud, and I want to send it as an ASCII file format. It's pretty much that simple. Then all I have to do is take it and execute it. And it's going to say how many frames do you want. I believe this is only 100 frames, so this is good. And I'll continue with errors, and I'll hit OK. And I'm going to send that out. It's a pretty quick process. Okay, and then what I'll do is I will pause the video and come back and bring it into Maya.